this is week 1 of the waiver wire. Most of you probably through your drafts right now. The waiver wire should be open. We're going to look for those players that are sitting on your waiver wire that you can add to your bench. Maybe you have a couple people from your draft you weren't sure on. Maybe you selected 2 or 3 kickers for some reason. But anyway, you guys know my waiver wire picks are for deep leagues. So if you're in a shallow league with 10 players, these players aren't going to be all that relevant, maybe 1 or 2. But I look for deep players that, are not written about on most, sites that you're going to read articles from. But we'll get right into it. I have 4 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers, and 4 tight ends. Okay, the first quarterback that we're looking at is Shaun Hill. When he plays, he has a great passer rating. He throws well over 200 yards, a touchdown or so. He does throw interceptions, but when he plays, he's very solid. Definitely sitting out on waiver wires right now. He's on one of my league's waiver wires and ready to pick up. So he should be there if you do need a second QB. Maybe you didn't draft a second QB in your league. Shaun Hill would be somebody I would look to. Next is Trent Edwards. The Bills already fired their offensive coordinator. Their coach is probably going to get fired, my guess, by week 10. Not going to make it through, but Trent Edwards is still going to get that Terrell Owens bump. And to have Terrell Owens and Lee Evans and then someone like Fred Jackson that you can dump off the ball to, he's going to get pretty good numbers for, maybe you're in a situation where Matt Schaub is still wearing a boot and doesn't start week 1, or you have Matt Castle and he's hurt and won't start week 1. Maybe you're in that situation. I'm not saying that Castle or Schaub won't start, but you have to keep an eye on that situation, and you may need to start someone like Trent Edwards. Moving on to the third one, Chad Pennington. He's there on a lot of waiver wires. Chad Pennington has a group of wide receivers around him. They're not studs by any means at all. He has a great running game, and because of that running game, it will open up some shots downfield. Chad Pennington has really stepped up ever since he got out of the Jets, and they booted him. He's stepped up, turned his game around, become a leader, and Chad Pennington could be someone you look at. Next is Mark Sanchez. I had a really close friend actually go to one of the preseason games, and the first thing he said when he came back was, "Wow, I'm so impressed by Mark Sanchez, his ability," and I'm starting to believe that Mark Sanchez, it could be a big sleeper for this season, and I'm hoping the Jets bring in another senior wide receiver like a Marvin Harrison or somebody that can come in alongside Jericho Cotchery so they can have a couple more receiving options. Let's move on to running back. The big name at running back, and this is for any league, is to look at James Davis. James Davis is a running back on the Browns. Jamal Lewis, the season hasn't started yet, so he still could get cut. And I think if you have a little bit extra roster space, I would just throw James Davis in there. If Jamal starts, he tends to start a lot, and he's pretty reliable when he does. He's reliable to start, not reliable in the fact that he's going to throw up good numbers, but the fact that he starts, would limit James Davis's ability. But if the Browns decide they want to save $4 million and cut Lewis, which I think they should, then you can go with James Davis. And Jamal Lewis should be avoided in most leagues. I would avoid Jamal Lewis. Next is Greg Jones from the Jaguars. Okay, he's a fullback, but he is more talented than Rashad Jennings. Obviously, you saw Maurice Jones-Drew. He's 5'8", 200 pounds, and they don't have many options there, so they're going to run the heck out of MJD. And you already saw in preseason he is prone to getting hurt. He's never had this type of workload. I expect him to be a beast, but I also expect there to be a risk-reward in the fact that he could go down, and Greg Jones would be the guy I would look to if you had some extra roster space. Next is Jason Wright. You're like, who is that? Who's Jason Wright? I don't know who he is. He is on Arizona Cardinals. Okay. Word is he's going to get the third down duties. May steal the goal line carries. It's yet to be seen. This is my most speculative pick from running backs. But looking at the running back situation, looking very deep, I'm trying to find people that you can look at that are really deep. And Jason Wright from the Cardinals would be somebody that you might look to. Next is Chris Brown. He has taken the goal line carries away from Slayton. I knew that was going to happen. Slayton is undersized. Chris Brown is somebody that is going to be potentially like a Lindo White, maybe. Again, these are very deep picks, very speculative, but if you keep your eye on James Davis, Greg Jones, Jason Wright, and Chris Brown, I would guess one of those four will emerge. Okay, let's move on to wide receivers. Okay, Chaz Schilens, as you know, he broke his foot. He is recovering quickly. He wants to be back week 2. Not going to happen. But I would say he's back by week 4, week 5, and he's not that bad. I'll tell you who's going to get a huge bump is Zach Miller, who we're going to talk about later. He's going to be a huge target for Jamarcus Russell. But Chaz Schilens, when he gets healthy, is someone you've got to keep an eye on. See, we need to be one step ahead of other owners. If you're looking at Chaz Schilens, no one else is, and you'll be ready, to swoop in there and pick somebody up, especially when those bye weeks start hitting in week 4. Okay, next is, Mike Sims Walker. Okay, this is Mike Walker from the Jaguars. He's talented. He is more talented than Troy Williamson. He is also super injury prone. He's a walking hospital, but he's talented. And when he gets on the field, he's going to do well. And you saw that in the most recent preseason game. He has the ability. I expect him to take over as a starter by week 4. Okay, so keep an eye on Mike Sims Walker. Next is Steve Smith from the New York Giants. He plays opposite of Hickson. He is the wide receiver 2 there, and you know what? I think he's pretty talented. And you got Eli Manning, who's okay. Keep an eye on Steve Smith. He's sitting on waiver wires right now, and he could be someone you want to grab now because he's going to emerge here in a couple weeks when all the news is on him. Okay, or he's a sleeper or whatever. Next is Robert Meachem. Drew Brees is going to throw like crazy with Pierre Thomas saying he's probably going to be out week 1. FYI, Pierre Thomas could be out week 1. The Saints throw the ball a lot. And Robert Meachem really has stepped up. I see him as being the one that emerges alongside Colston. Okay? It's either going to be him or Lance Moore, but I think Robert Meachem can do it. So keep an eye on that situation. Last is tight ends. I'll go right through these because I've been touting all these tight ends. I'm actually just going to start listing them out. Zach Miller from Oakland. He is their primary target at wide receiver there. He is primary. He's going to get 5 catches at minimum every game. Okay, so Zach Miller, he could be sitting there on your waiver wire. He was on mine, and I picked him up in my Dynasty League. He will act like a wide receiver. He's a wide receiver in a tight end position, bottom line. And there's not many other targets there. Next is Brent Celek out of Philadelphia. You guys know I'm high on him. I think he's great. When he stepped in last year for L.J. Smith, he was solid. He'll continue to be solid. It's a good tight end, and he's probably sitting on your waiver wire. Next is Dustin Keller. Again, he's just like Zach Miller. He's a wide receiver playing tight end. He's big enough to block, but he's also got great hands. There's not a lot of options there. There's Jericho Cotchery. Okay, then Dustin Keller. Dustin Keller's going to get some nice hits. Next and finally is Heath Miller. He's just kind of a reliable guy. He's not a super stud. He's not a super dud. And most of the time he's on the waiver wire. And if you're really hurting at tight end for some reason, maybe you just had a bad draft, then Heath Miller. But, if Zach Miller, Brent Celek, or Dustin Keller are there, I'd rather have them over Heath Miller. Okay, that's it. That's week 1. I'm really excited about getting into the season. Check out HattyWaiverWireGuru.com. We have a lot of new things. We have a message board for you. We had a survey go out with a lot of different requests. Obviously, one of those requests was to kill the music on the video, so that's gone. Thank you for the request, by the way, and my played out Kanye West, which is fine. Kill me. I don't care. Tell me what you don't like and what you like. We have a new feature that a lot of people are super pumped about, have been asking them for. It's the starters, the studs, the sleepers, and the bench. And if you go there, I'm going to update it every week. Okay, you go and you look at that list. It's a brand new feature. It's a live document. I update it daily. If you see anything in it you don't like, email me. Email me, I email you back. I love the personal touch of emails. I'm at Hatty Waiver Guru at HattyWaiverWireGuru.com. So email me. Really excited. Here comes the first week of football. I hope you guys are excited. Thank you for the support for Hatty Waiver Wire Guru. This is going to be an excellent season. We're going to pull some wins. We're going to win some championships. And we're going to have a lot of fun while we're doing it. All right, guys. That's it.